At the family BBQ, my dad handed me a paper plate. He piled on a burger and some potato salad. Then he joked, "Too bad your career isn't as full as your plate." My sister Ashley laughed. It was a loud, clear laugh. My mom just rolled. Her eyes, a small sigh escaping her lips. She didn't defend me. She rarely did. But the moment my sister saw the logo on my car keys, everything changed. The laughter stopped. The air shifted. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could finally breathe. Hey, I'm Brianna Morgan. I'm 29 years old. I live in Austin, Texas, and I'm an entrepreneur. For years, my family thought I was the black sheep, the one who drifted, the one who couldn't quite get it together. I was working quietly, always busy on my laptop. In their eyes, I was failing loudly, or so they thought. They saw the late nights, the focused look on my face. They just filled in the blanks with their own assumptions. "Still trying with that little computer thing?" they'd ask. They never asked what I was building. They never asked what I was passionate about. They just saw what they wanted to. See, the daughter who wasn't following their plan. Before I get into how I turned the ultimate insult into the biggest flex, the moment that changed everything, do me a favor. If you're reading this and you get it, maybe give it a thumbs up if this were a video, or just nod to yourself if you're reading it quietly. I hear people share stories like this online all the time, and they always ask viewers to subscribe and comment where they're watching from. I guess I get why now. It feels good to share, to know you're not alone. I love hearing other people's stories too. So, if you've ever been underestimated by your own family, if you've ever felt small in their eyes, this one's for you. This is for everyone who ever had to prove them wrong, not with words, but with the life you built. It was the 4th of July. The sun was blazing down on my parents' suburban backyard, in that way it only does in Texas in July. Hot, a little humid, but bearable if you found a spot in the shade. The smell of barbecue smoke hung heavy in the air, a familiar comfort. Dad was manning the grill, a faded kiss-the-cook apron tied around his waist. Mom was bustling in and out of the kitchen, coordinating salads and drinks. My aunts, uncles, and a gaggle of cousins were scattered around the yard. Some were lounging in plastic chairs. Others were playing a half-hearted game of croquet on the patchy lawn. It was typical, predictable. And then there was Ashley, my younger sister. She was the family's golden child, always had been. She was smart, pretty, and followed the path everyone approved of. Good grades, popular girl, state university, and now a brand new corporate job with a well-known company in Dallas. She'd driven down for the holiday, her new company car parked, proudly in the driveway. Everyone was cooing over her success, her sensible career choice. "Ashley just got a promotion, did you hear?" My Aunt Carol asked me, not really waiting for an answer. "She's doing so well. We're all so proud of her." I nodded and smiled. Of course they were. Ashley was easy to be proud of. She fit the mold. I found a relatively quiet spot under the old oak tree, nursing a glass of iced tea. I wasn't trying to be antisocial. I just knew how these gatherings usually went for me. I was the question mark, the one they worried about in their own way. How's your thing going, Brianna?" Uncle Mark would eventually ask, his voice trailing off because he never quite knew what my thing was. I'd been running my own digital consulting firm, Morgan Digital Ventures, for 5 years. It started small, just me and my laptop in my tiny Austin apartment, fueled by instant coffee and a stubborn belief in myself. I worked with small businesses at first, then medium-sized ones. I learned, I networked, I put in the hours, so many hours. Slowly, carefully, I built it. Now, MDV, as we called it, was a multi-million-dollar company. We partnered with Fortune 500 companies, big names, household brands. I had an office downtown, a small team of brilliant people working with me. But my family, they knew none of this. Not the details anyway. I'd tried early on. "I'm starting a business," I'd said, full of hope. "It's in digital strategy." Blank stares. "Oh, that's nice, dear," Mom had said. "Is that like websites?" Dad had grunted something about getting a real job with benefits. After a few more attempts, I just stopped trying to explain. They had their narrative about me. Brianna, the drifter, the one with the freelance thing. It was easier, I guess, than understanding. So there I was, at the 4th of July BBQ, braced for the inevitable. Ashley was holding court near the patio table, animatedly telling a story about her new office, her new boss. Everyone listened, captivated. She looked great, confident, successful. everything I supposedly wasn't. Dad came over, spatula in hand, a sheen of sweat on his forehead. He handed me that paper plate, piled high. Here you go, Bree. Eat up. I smiled. Thanks, Dad. Looks great. He chuckled, a familiar sound that usually preceded a jab. Too bad your career isn't as full as your plate. He winked, like it was the funniest joke in the world. Ashley, walking over to grab a napkin, heard it and let out that bright, effortless laugh. Oh, Dad, that's a good one. A little sting, sharp and quick, pierced through me. It always did, no matter how much I tried to pretend it didn't. I forced my smile to stay in place. Mom, overhearing from the doorway, didn't laugh. She just rolled her eyes, a weary expression on her face. Richard, honestly, she murmured, but there was no real heat in it. Then she turned to me. So, Brianna, are you still, working from coffee shops mostly? Or have you found a little office space yet? Her tone was light, but the underlying message was clear. Still playing at business, are we? The little circle of nearby relatives chuckled. My cousin Kevin snorted. Yeah, Bree, how's that Wi-Fi treating you? I just smiled quietly. It's fine, Mom. The coffee's good. I kept my voice even, calm. Inside, though, a familiar ache settled in. It wasn't just the words. It was the casual dismissal, the complete lack of curiosity, the assumption that I was still flailing, still a step away from moving back into my childhood bedroom. They had no idea, and the painful part was, they didn't seem to want to have any idea. Their version of me was simpler, more convenient for them. The afternoon wore on. More burgers, more small talk. I mostly listened, offering non-committal responses when spoken to. I was used to fading into the background at these things. It was easier. Ashley was talking about needing to run to the store for some extra ice. Her car, the shiny new company car, was blocked in by mine. I'd parked my older sedan on the street, a little way down, not wanting to take up space in the driveway. Bree, can I grab your keys to move your car? Ashley asked, holding out her hand. I need to get out. Sure, I said, reaching into my purse. I pulled out my key fob and handed it to her. Attached to the fob was a simple, dark blue leather keychain. It wasn't flashy, but it was well made. Embroidered on it in neat silver letters were two words, Morgan Digital Ventures. I'd gotten them made for my whole team last Christmas. A small thing, but it meant something to me. Ashley glanced at it, probably just to make sure it was a key and not something else. Then she paused. Her eyes flicked back to the keychain. She frowned slightly, turning it over in her fingers. Morgan Digital Ventures. MDV? She murmured almost to herself. Then she looked at me, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. Confusion? What's Morgan Digital Ventures? It's my company, I said simply. She just stared at me for a second. Oh, okay. She turned and walked towards my car. I watched her go, a strange feeling stirring in my chest. It wasn't nervousness exactly, more like anticipation. The universe has a funny way of timing things. Ashley was gone for maybe 10 minutes, long enough to move my car and, apparently, do a quick search on her phone. I saw her walking back, much slower this time. Her face was pale. She wasn't looking at anyone. She was looking straight at me. The usual confidence in her stride was gone. She looked stunned. She walked right up to me, stopping a few feet away. The chatter around us seemed to fade. I could feel other family members watching, curious about the sudden shift in Ashley's demeanor. Brianna, she said, her voice quiet, almost a whisper. MDV, Morgan Digital Ventures. I just Googled it. I waited. I didn't say anything. I just met her gaze. Her eyes were wide. It says it's a multi-million-dollar consulting firm, that it partners with some of the biggest companies in the country, Fortune 500 companies. She swallowed hard. Is that your Morgan Digital Ventures? The backyard went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop on the grass. Even Dad, who had been scraping the grill, stopped, the metal tool clattering slightly as he lowered it. Everyone was looking at me. I took a slow sip of my iced tea. Then I looked at Ashley. Yes, I said, my voice calm and clear in the sudden stillness. It is. Ashley just stared, her mouth slightly open. Then she asked the question that had been hanging in the air, unasked, for years. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell me you own MDV? The silence stretched. It was thick, heavy, like the humid summer air. My dad cleared his throat, a loud, awkward sound. Mom's hand flew to her chest. Uncle Mark's eyebrows were practically at his hairline. I looked around at their faces. Shock, disbelief, and something else. Confusion? Maybe a little bit of shame? I finally answered Ashley, but my words were for all of them. You never asked, I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The 3 words landed with more impact than any shout could have. You were all so sure you knew what I was doing, or rather, what I wasn't doing. You never actually asked. Me about my work? Not really. Not with any genuine interest. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed from stunned silence to a flurry of awkward energy. They started talking, almost all at once, a jumble of voices. Well now, Brianna, that's not entirely fair, Dad began, his voice bluff and hearty, trying to regain control. He picked up the grill scraper again, making a show of being busy. We always, supported your endeavors. He couldn't even name it. My mom rushed forward. Honey, why didn't you say something? All this time. We had no idea. A multi-million-dollar company? Oh, Brianna. Her voice was a mix of awe and something that sounded suspiciously like reproach, as if my silence was a failing on my part. You should have told us. We could have celebrated. Celebrated what? I thought. My success? Or the fact that I wasn't the failure they'd imagined? Cousin Kevin, who had been sniggering about coffee shop Wi-Fi earlier, now looked like he'd swallowed his tongue. Aunt Carol was gaping. I looked at my mom, then at my dad, then back at Ashley, whose face was still a mask of bewilderment. I was busy, I said, keeping my tone even. I was building. While you all were judging, I was working. While you were making jokes about my little freelance thing, I was negotiating contracts. While you were patting Ashley on the back for her sensible job, which is great, Ashley. I'm genuinely happy for you. I was taking risks, facing challenges, and growing my company. It didn't leave a lot of time or energy to try and convince people who had already made up their minds about me. The implications hung there, the years of quiet dismissal, the subtle put-downs, the complete lack of faith. It all seemed to crystallize in that moment. My dad mumbled something about needing more charcoal, even though the grill was clearly dying down. My mom started fussing with the potato salad, rearranging it in its bowl as if it were the most important task in the world. So, Uncle Mark chimed in, trying for a casual tone that didn't quite land. What kind of, consulting is it exactly? Digital, you said? Suddenly they were interested. Suddenly, my thing had a name they could respect, a number they could quantify. The questions started to trickle in, hesitant at first, then more eager. How many employees did I have? What were some of my clients? Was it very stressful? It was almost comical, the speed of their turnaround. But I didn't feel like laughing. I just felt a quiet sort of weariness and a small, hard knot of vindication deep inside. I didn't answer most of their newfound questions. I didn't owe them an explanation, not anymore. I had tried before and they hadn't listened. Now their interest felt tainted, opportunistic almost. I took another bite of my burger. It was actually pretty good. I finished what was on my paper plate, making sure to eat the last bit of potato salad. I carefully wiped my mouth with a napkin. The flurry of questions died down as they realized I wasn't going to elaborate, wasn't going to give them the details they now craved. An awkward silence descended again, different this time, charged, uncomfortable for them perhaps. For me, it was strangely peaceful. I stood up. Well, I said, my voice polite, pleasant even. The food was delicious, Mom. Dad, thanks for having me. My mom looked up, startled. Oh, you're leaving already, dear? There was a hint of panic in her voice, as if she suddenly realized an opportunity was walking out the door. Yeah, I should get going, I said. Long drive back, and I have an early start tomorrow. But we were just starting to catch up, Dad exclaimed, a forced joviality in his tone. Tell us more about this MDV. I just smiled. A small, polite smile. Maybe another time. I picked up my purse. I said goodbye to my aunts and uncles. A general wave to my cousins. I gave Ashley a nod. She was still looking at me with that dazed expression, but there was something else there too. A flicker of respect, maybe even apology. I hoped so. I walked out of the backyard, down the driveway, and onto the street. I didn't look back. I could feel their eyes on me, though. I walked the short distance to where I'd parked. Not my old sedan this time. Last month, after landing. Our biggest client yet. I'd treated myself. It wasn't flashy, not a sports car. It was a Mercedes. A sleek, dark silver E-Class. Understated elegance, quiet power. I hadn't parked it in the driveway. I hadn't wanted to flaunt it. It wasn't for them. It was for me. I clicked the fob. The lights flashed. I got in, the leather seat cool against my skin. I started the engine. It hummed to life, a quiet, satisfying sound. As I pulled away from the curb, I glanced in my rearview mirror. I could see them, a small cluster of figures still standing in the driveway, watching me go. They looked smaller somehow. A little smile played on my lips. Sometimes, the loudest voices, the ones that doubt you and try to define you, are the most wrong. They're projecting their own limits, their own fears. For years, I let their voices echo in my head, a quiet hum of inadequacy beneath my own ambition. But I kept going. I kept building. You don't have to announce your success from the rooftops. You don't have to fight for their approval or understanding. You just have to do the work. You just have to believe in what you're building, whether it's a company, a skill, or a better version of yourself. Your success, when it comes, will speak for itself. And trust me, its voice is far more powerful, far more resonant than any casual insult or dismissive joke ever could be. It doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be true. So if you've ever had your success doubted or mocked by the people who were supposed to be your biggest cheerleaders, and you still came out on top, or you're on your way, I see you. Drop a comment below, telling me where you're watching from. Share your story if you feel like it. Because we all have these moments, these turning points. And remember, sometimes silence, while you're working, while you're building, while you're becoming, that silence is the loudest power move of all.